Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's meeting of the Democratic Services Committee. And before we go to the agenda, I'd like to make a couple of welcomes to some new people who are with us today. Jade Land, who will be handling uh, admin for us. So welcome, Jade, to your first meeting. And we will also be joined by Debbie Jones, who is the new Head of Legal Services and the Council's Monitoring Officer. So a warm welcome to them. Um, do we have any apologies for absence, Jade?
I have apologies from Councillor Ian Harrison.
Thank you. If we record that. Item 2 on the agenda is the election of Vice Chair. Do we have nominations?
So I have received a nomination for Councillor Pete Lewington.
Yeah, I've made that nomination actually. Um, I'll- do we have a seconder for that? And are there any other nominations? Uh, Councillor Danny Bebb is seconding that, I think. Yep. Thank you, Danny. If there are no other nominations, then can we have a show of hands on that, please? Yeah, I think that's unanimous. Thank you very much, and thank you for taking up that position again, Peter.
Yep. No, thank you, Chair, and thank you everyone for your support.
Thank you. Um, Next item on the agenda is the minutes of the previous meeting. I take it we've all had a chance to read through those, and if there are no matters to be raised, you'll wish that I sign those as the correct record? I think that seems to be unanimous as well. That's fine. Thanks very much for that. Which takes us on to declarations of interest. Jade, have we received any?
No, I have not received any.
Okay. None that anybody wishes to declare today? No, we're all fine with that. Which takes us on to item 5, which is the 225-26 annual report for Head of Democratic and Scrutiny, which I think Catherine will be taking us through.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So the Head of Democratic Annual Report covers the period from the 1st of April through to the 31st, 2025 to 31st of March 2026. So it's looking at how we review, or it's reviewing how we support our 68 county councillors, and it sets out the team structure that's in place, the responsibilities and workload, as well as insight into councillor training and the committees that we have. The Democratic Services team is made up of 7 people, and there's a total budget of 2.4 million, with most funding allocated to councillor pay, and the team costing just around £341,000. So during the year, 2 councillors participated on the WLGA Leadership Programme, connecting with peers from various political backgrounds across Wales and discussed issues, and this really helped equip them with some leadership skills. We also had a huge training that was delivered, scrutiny training by an external facilitator and tailored to different roles. So that really focused on how scrutiny can be effective, proportionate, and impactful. So the programme did cover chairs of scrutiny in terms of how they lead and manage meetings, scrutiny committees and lay members in terms of how they develop recommendations and measure impact, and all county councillors in terms of the sort of principles of what effective scrutiny is. It also, we had training for directors and heads of service in how they can support and prepare reports for scrutiny, as well as Cabinet themselves in terms of how they can effectively work with scrutiny to add value to our decision making. We also developed a councillor hub. So this is a place for councillors to access important information, guidance and tools, and it enables them to access what they need to carry out their roles effectively. During the year, 148 meetings took place across Council, Cabinet, Scrutiny and other committees, and full details are on page 13, plus an additional 46 meetings for other boards and working groups. So pages 15 to 23 provides an overview of our 3 scrutiny committees and the work that they undertook during the year. And they regularly met and on average had between 12 and 15 meetings each. Councillor attendance at those meetings ranged between 66% attendance and 76%, and scrutiny topics range from customer services, transport, care homes, as well as all things education, with detailed listings for each committee in the report itself. This annual report also summarises the work of the Finance Panel as well as Planning Committee during the year. At the start of the year, as you all know, we received an Audit Wales review of our scrutiny arrangements, which made 2 recommendations, and they were to clarify the purpose and value of scrutiny and to better demonstrate its effectiveness. So in response, the Council strengthened scrutiny through targeted workshops, as I mentioned earlier, and some training, as well as enhancing induction materials and ensure we've got clearer governance processes, including stricter reporting requirements and better transparency. Scrutiny practice has improved with consistent use of pre-meetings, the removal or ban of late reports, and stronger alignment alongside our corporate priorities. So to evidence impact and value for money, the Council has strengthened self-assessment, including some improvement actions that are across all committees and updating the Constitution to strengthen the influence of scrutiny on Cabinet decisions and allow more time for effective review. So the key improvement themes that came out from the self-assessments that scrutiny did were to have coordinated forward work programmes and joint scrutiny sometimes to reduce duplication, while earlier and better quality information can improve their decisions and help avoid rework or poor outcomes. Investment in councillor training in areas such as risk and finance, as well as data tools, can help to strengthen challenge and oversight, with a greater focus on prevention, benchmarking, and benefits realisation. Consistent focus on more robust impact assessments and stronger tracking of recommendations, as well as better or increased collaboration between committees and sometimes with partners on cross-cutting issues such as climate, risk or service integration. So the improvement themes that have come out will be monitored and tracked over the year to ensure that we are continuously improving. And finally, I'd just like to thank the team's dedication for the work that they do. They are an asset, and this report really showcases the breadth of what they do with a very small team itself.
Thank you, Catherine. Does anybody have any questions or comments that would like to make? Councillor Clare.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to note the bottom of page 11 and about the members' correspondence, and I just wanted to say thank you to the team. As a fairly new member of the council, I find that system really effective, and Melanie in particular is always really responsive. So I just wanted that to be acknowledged. Thank you.
Thank you, Claire. I'll agree wholeheartedly with that. Councillor Peat.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, and thanks, Catherine and the team, for a very comprehensive report there. It's just a very minor question, Chair. It's also on page 11 around the members' champions role. I seem to recollect somewhere that the members' champions are going to be given the opportunity to come along annually to full council to give us an update on the work that they've done, but I've not seen anything in that report there. Don't know whether or not I'm misremembering.
Catherine.
Yeah, so we have requested the annual reports from the member champions, and so far we have we're just awaiting another. I don't know, I'd like your views on this. So I wasn't sure whether or not to include those reports within this report or keep them separate, but they will be coming to the next full council meeting. So I don't know, whether or not to include them here or keep them as a separate sort of, yeah.
Are you happy with that, Pete, that they go straight to full council?
Yeah, no, that's fine. Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Catherine. Yeah, my preference would be just to go to full council. So, yeah.
I had just a question that I had, Catherine. We've obviously had a lot of changes within the team. We've lost some pretty senior members of the team who've been with us a very long while. My question would be, are we up to the levels, the 7 full-time equivalent? And are we happy with the level of
Resourcing.
people that we've been able to attract to these positions?
Yeah, so we've obviously attracted Jade to the position. So at last year we were at 6.8 FTE, and actually we're at 7 now. So everybody's full time. And Steve, I don't know if you wanted to sort of add anything here. Obviously, it is a very busy environment. And a lot of meetings taking place. And if you've looked within the report, you can see we've actually increased the number of meetings since last year. So it is very busy. But Steve, I don't know if you wanted to add anything.
Just to say that I've been really happy with the caliber of people we've been able to recruit to the posts.
Thank you, Steve. Thanks for that. If there are no other questions on that, I think we simply note the report, do we? There's no recommendations here.
Just one question from me, Graham.
Oh, sorry, Gareth, go ahead.
Yeah, we've got the attendance for each of the scrutiny committees. Do we set targets for what we expect the average attendance to be?
Chair, can I come in there?
Yeah, please do, Steve.
So the Standards Committee set a target of 60%, and they will be reviewing that at their meeting later this month.
Okay with that, Gareth?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, Chair. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Gareth. So that being the case, we simply note the report and thank you, Catherine.
Debbie's got her hand up, Chair.
Oh, sorry, Debbie.
Sorry, Chair.
I didn't
I
even
just
notice
thought.
you'd arrived. Thanks for joining us.
Sorry, morning all. I just wanted to just maybe elaborate slightly on what Steve said for Councillor Gareth, that the Standards Committee are seized of considering the attendance of members at meetings. So as Steve said, it is the 60%, and if there's any fluctuation below, they have a look at that and then they'll review that going forward if that gives that assurance. So that is considered by the Standards Committee.
Okay. Thanks, Debbie. Okay with that, Gareth?
Yeah, it just seems quite a low figure to me. You know, that means that 40% of us aren't expected to attend, especially if we've got committees got vacancies on as well.
Yeah, it's quite a good point, I think. I don't know, do you want to make a proposition on that, Gareth?
I face going to Standards Committee, Chair. I'm happy with that. You know, I just think they need to review it against the current performance and set it at or around that figure. That's my personal view.
Okay.
I can report those comments back to the Standards Committee, Councillor Gareth. Chair.
Would you please, Debbie? That would be helpful.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Thanks very much for that. So we will note that report, and that takes us on to item 6, which is member development program. And I think that's you again, Catherine, is it?
Sorry, yeah, it's me. It's the councillor development strategy actually. So it's been designed to ensure all councillors are equipped to deliver democratic leadership throughout their term in office. So while we've got foundations in place, feedback from member development days and some committee self-assessments has shown that we can strengthen the current approach. So this strategy has sort of responded to this directly by providing a clear vision to help provide confident, capable and a resilient set of councillors, supported by a structured framework to help them sort of develop, identify needs. So we've got a grading matrix and an annual development questionnaire, as well as having flexible and inclusive learning with a different range of formats to support that. So it's not just about the induction, it introduces a sort of development model across the whole term with clear alignment to different councillor roles. So specific support for chairs of different committees, as well as strengthening digital skills across the piece and planning training for all councillors. So the strategy has been shaped through feedback from group leaders and corporate leadership team, And we have, Scarlett has done a huge amount of research of good practice across councils and authorities, across the whole of the UK. And she has liaised very closely with the WLGA on this as well. So the next step is to share this with all councillors and have a development session to gather further input before taking it back to corporate leadership team. So we're just seeking the committee's views on the approach, and anything else that you may have, please. Thank you.
Thanks, Catherine. Does anybody want to come in? Councillor Peat.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Yeah, sorry, Catherine, just a quick question. I'm sorry, I've probably gone off on one of my musing tangents as well, so apologies. I was just thinking about some of the other, if you like, more technical committees, say like Audit and Governance and Finance Panel, and perhaps some auditing training around that, some training around Treasury management, those types of
Yeah.
topics. Is that picked up in this?
Well, it has cropped up in self-assessment. So this is the sort of high-level strategy, and we do have behind it sits the further detail. But it is something that has cropped up a few times, Councillor Lewington, and I know that Governance and Audit specifically have mentioned it in their own self-assessment, haven't they, as well? So
Yeah.
it is something that Finance are going to be organising.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Did I see Councillor Sarah's hand up then? Has it gone?
Still there? Oh,
Sorry, if I have, I didn't mean to. I'll take it down now. I can't see it. Thanks.
No. Okay, Sarah, thanks.
Sorry.
Councillor Clare.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I welcome this sort of a corporate approach to all members. One comment from me, again, coming back to my experience as coming in sort of cold in a by-election. It seems to be that by-elections are now pretty common for different reasons. And I'm just wondering whether or not, because obviously the corporate approach is based on us arriving all together and then leaving all together at 5-year terms, or whether we just need to think about sort of a more intensive help around maybe new councillors that come in partway through a current term. But other than that, I'm quite happy with the report.
Yeah, it's a very good point.
yeah.
Claire, Catherine, do you want to come back on that?
No, it is a really good point. So that is something we'll consider, because it does seem to be, you're right, it does seem to be happening quite a lot. So we will look into that and make sure that training is something that you can access, yourself, rather than having to sort of watch some pre-recorded thing as well.
Thanks for
Yeah.
that.
Thank you.
Councillor Gareth?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I may be going off on a tangent now, but I and many other councillors are now chair of schools, and we got training for the chairs of scrutiny. What training do we provide corporately for those of us who got
Governors.
those other responsibilities, governors? Yeah, I know Beth does it, but there is some limited training for chairs, but it's a unique role, isn't it?
Okay, I'll make a note, and I can raise that with Richard and the education colleagues.
And linked to that, are you intended to have some KPIs against some of these training targets?
Yes, obviously there is the mandatory training, isn't there, for all councillors? So we've got dashboards that enable us to see that. And we can see schools, down to a lower level as well. So yeah, we will have some measures.
Okay.
To understand whether or not we're improving, going in the right direction.
Well, I wasn't going to improve, I'm just thinking about compliance. How many councillors are actually doing enough training?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and is that is that followed through, Catherine? After
and
we've also identified as not doing the training, is action being taken?
Yeah, I know with I can only speak at the moment for the mandatory training, but the reports, group leaders have access to the reports and they can see their group. So we do help, and that does help with compliance.
Yeah, and I know we get chased occasionally when we start talking.
Yeah.
Okay, Debbie?
Thank you, Chair. Just to highlight, the training is also something that's monitored by the Standards Committee also for members, so that's another one of their roles and functions.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, so there are no more questions or comments that I can see. Are we happy to note this report? We don't
So
need
where
to take...
can Catherine just, I think she's already said, where does it go from now? From here?
So we would like to do a councillor development session.
Yeah.
And make sure that everybody, we've had as much feedback as possible. So, for instance, Councillor Hall, you've mentioned, haven't you, about those by-elections? So we need to look at that and what we can do around that. But also, it would be going to corporate leadership, but eventually to full council. I'm thinking now October. It'll be the autumn. We're not going to get all that done before July.
Okay.
Yeah. So within this, you've got the 12 months prior to elections, and obviously you're not going to meet that now because we're already within that period.
Yeah, but most of that is around communicating outwardly of what
Okay.
councillor is. So we've already worked with the communications team to look at that.
That started. Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for that. So we'll note that report and thank you for the work that's gone into that. Item 7 on the agenda is recommendation from Standards Committee. And I think, Debbie, are you going to take us through this?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, of course.
You are very quiet, by the way, Debbie. I don't know whether you've got more volume.
Oh, let me check. Sorry. Can you hear me now?
Not much.
No, about the same.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, we can just hear you, so it's okay.
Sorry, I'll talk a bit
Well,
louder.
that's better. That's better.
Sorry. It's a very brief report, Chair, just some recommendations that came from a Standards Committee meeting that was held recently. As some of you may know, members of the Standards Committee do attend council meetings and they observe proceedings and then they report back to the Standards Committee about matters that they think, they could raise. And obviously there's a few matters here that they've identified in their observations that they just wanted to bring to the attention of this committee. So basically I've outlined in a very short report just some of the observations they've viewed, and they'd like some recommendations or some views from you in relation to those. So their observations, and this is over a few meetings. So their observations are that just that they may have heard some mobile phones, some disturbance from phones, and that those are to be switched off during council meetings. Cameras, they wanted to, your views really on whether we can encourage members to keep their cameras on during meetings. Obviously, there are issues with broadband and Wi-Fi for members that are joining. And of course, the guidance and legislation is very clear that members just have to be heard. So I just need to be really clear about that. But that's obviously a recommendation from them. There was a suggestion that nameplates could be used and placed in front of all members in the chamber. Of course, when it's hybrid and you have an electronic meeting, all of your names appear. Whoever's presenting or talking, your names appear. But obviously, if you're in the chamber, there's no identification in the same way. So that was a thought that came about from one of the observers. The voting method, you'll see that there was some suggestion that there could be a consistent use of electronic voting for clarity, accuracy and transparency. I just need to highlight to the committee in relation to that, the constitution is quite clear. 4.64 is very clear about the method of voting. So I can highlight that in a second if you like, but if you just want me to go through, I'll just finish the others. And then the last one was the display and materials. I think there was some reference to a placard or something being shown in full council, and that, they didn't think that was necessarily appropriate. But they just wanted you really to note these observations, because obviously they have these observations. They wanted you just to be aware of them and whether you wanted to make any amendments or recommendations in relation to all of those. So shall I pass that back to you, Chair? And if you want me to elaborate on some of those, I'm happy to do so.
Yeah, thank you, Debbie. I think it'd be a good idea if we went through them one by one. So if we take mobile phones first, personally, I think that's simply one for chairs of meetings to remind members. I don't think we need any rules on that. Councillor Danny, did you wish to come in on this?
No, mine was about name plates, so I can leave that till
Okay,
later.
we'll leave you back till that one.
Thank you, Chair.
Anybody else got thoughts on mobile phones?
Only in agreement with you, Chair.
Okay, so that's one we don't need to take forward then, if we all agree. cameras. I think Debbie already outlined on there that you know, we are guided by Welsh Government on the use of cameras. So Councillor Pete, do you wish to come in?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Yeah, it was only just a quick one. I noticed the words there are sort of like encourage, and I do just wonder if there ought to be a bit more emphasis on that, especially when members are speaking, and definitely when members are voting.
Yeah, it's a very difficult one to make firm moves on, isn't it? Because, you know, people, particularly working from home, where broadband issues can sometimes be problematic, it's very hard to impose. I think it's impossible to say that they have to turn their cameras on. Councillor Selby, you're on mute, David.
I think that the word encourage ought to be there. I don't think someone should speak in particular from a grey screen. I find that very disconcerting.
Okay, fine. Councillor Gareth?
Yeah, I'd be slightly harder, Chair. I'd take the first three words out. I'd take where broadband's allowed. I'd start members should, take be encouraged to out. I would make it members should, when speaking or voting, keep cameras switched on to supporting transparency and engagement. And, you know, my view is if they got problems with broadband, they should be encouraged all.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Catherine, did you wish? Oh, sorry, Danny, you wish to come in on this one?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, the broadband issue, I have it sometimes. It can appear out of nowhere. You know, you start off with, it's like any job, you start off with all the best intentions and then it goes wrong. But I'd be inclined to agree with everyone. However, we can always state when we want to speak that we are having broadband issues. Otherwise, it would be on. You know, that it'd be down to a case by case basis. But otherwise, I do think that we should set a stern example to say, yes, this is what we want. But if you can't do it, just say so. You know, something along those lines.
Yeah, thanks, Danny. Councillor Clare?
Yeah, I'm largely in agreement with everything that's been said. But what I would say is there have been some really embarrassing occasions in the chamber where members have clearly not got their cameras on, not because they've got broadband issues, but they're in another event or venue altogether and they're not giving their focus to the matters in hand. So I think we definitely do need to strengthen and tighten up on that, so that if there's a technical broadband issue, I kind of get that. But let's be honest, there have been incidences where some members have been trying to bring forward motions and trying to get around switching on their camera because they're somewhere else doing something else, that rather than focusing on the meeting that they're supposed to be concentrating on.
Thank you, Claire. Anyone else wish to come in? Or is it the wish of the committee?
Catherine's just made a really good point in chat, Chair, that those who are struggling with broadband could actually attend in closest offices.
Yeah, good point. Yeah. So is it the wish of the committee that the camera issue goes as a recommendation to full council?
I'd like to propose, Chair.
We've got a proposer and seconder.
Second, Chair.
Yeah. We're all in favour? Okay. You okay with that one, Debbie? That one goes as a recommendation.
Yes, just to reiterate that the guidance is around being heard. So that's absolutely fine, Chair.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But those of us who might struggle with our hearing can actually use visual to actually help them by lip reading. So, to my mind, seeing and hearing go hand in hand.
Thank you, Councillor Gower.
Okay. Nameplates. Consideration of providing nameplates for councillors and officers in the chamber to support identification for the public. I don't know what thoughts are on that. I foresee all kinds of problems with that myself, but and names do come up on the screens for the public who are watching from home. You know, I can see all the names on the screens at the moment. So Councillor Clare and then Councillor Danny.
Thanks, Chair. I think if I'm right, is the issue that when people are in the chamber, public watching, don't necessarily know who's speaking. And I'm just wondering, rather than actual physical nameplates, whether there's a technical solution that just like the camera zooms on to the person that's speaking, whether there's a technical way that their name can be displayed while they're speaking. Just a thought. I haven't got a strong view.
Yeah, not sure. Can Steve help us with that? Is that possible, Steve?
Yeah, I'm sure we can go back to the people who provide the webcast for us and ask them for a technical solution to that. I'm sure it can be done.
Okay. Councillor Danny.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Well, this is what I was going to say. Like we have the screens up in County Hall, the cameras do zoom in. I've always assumed, although I've never checked, that the names do appear as they are on here. Do they appear on the screen in County Hall?
No, they don't.
They don't. No. Okay.
No, I did go back this morning and check past broadcasts, and no, the names don't appear.
Right.
So,
Okay. Thank you.
So I'll be in agreement that Steve goes away and sees if that's possible,
Yes.
rather than name places, which I think will get lost every time we have a meeting.
It's quite an old-fashioned way of doing it as well,
Yes,
having all nameplates in front of you.
Logistic nightmare.
And there's a cost implication, Chair.
Yeah.
Are we doing gold plated though?
And we're also facing away from the public gallery.
Yeah.
Yeah, good point. Yeah. Okay, so all in agreement with that. I'm not seeing any opposition to that, so we'll go with that one. Voting methods. A consistent use of electronic voting is recommended to ensure clarity, accuracy of records, and transparency. Any thoughts? I've got Councillor Clare.
Sorry, it's just I think Debbie said that there was something she could elaborate on that before we discussed it. I was just wondering what that was. Sorry.
Thank you, Councillor Clare. Sorry, I did. The Section 4 of the Constitution is just clear about using the electronic voting system. I mean, it does say the chair will vote, unless a recorded vote is demanded under Rule 4.66, the chair will take the vote at his/her discretion by use of the council's electronic voting system, or by a show of hands, or if there is no dissent, by the affirmation of the meeting. Because you'll see sometimes, so that allows some flexibility in the proceedings. So if, for example, it was to approve minutes and there was no dissent, you could just do a show of hands rather than using the electronic system. So it's just about being proportionate in terms of the time you've got, you know, because if it was for example, the minutes, it could just be over onerous for us to then use the electronic system, and for the staff, you know, for Steve's team as well. It's, you know, it's something that it lacks that flexibility. So but, you know, in terms of your decisions, I think we do use the electronic system regularly. That's how it occurs. But it was just in terms of that flexibility, Councillor Clare, that I just wanted to point out there is that in the Constitution.
Okay. Any thoughts, Claire?
Thank you. That makes perfect sense. It would be absolutely nuts if we were using the electronic voting system every time we wanted to approve the minutes and stuff. So, yeah, thanks for that explanation. That makes perfect sense to me.
Okay, Councillor Gareth?
Yeah, I'm just wondering, should we amend it to say that when there's formal motions, we should use electronic system to have that recorded? I'd agree with Claire. When don't need it for the minutes, but if there's a formal motion, do we do it then? I'm quite happy what we're doing now. I don't think there's anything contentious. We just had a vote, show of hands on anyway.
I think that's in the gift of the chair to ask of that anyway, Gareth, isn't it? On formal motions.
I was going to say, Chair, I think it's a bit of both. It's around that guidance from me about that flexibility that's permitted and dealing with, like you say, the formal matters in terms of the electronic voting. So it just, you know, it's just given that flexibility really in terms of how the current rules are set out when it's needed.
And Debbie, am I right in saying that a councillor can ask for a formal vote, a recorded vote anyway?
That's correct, Chair.
Yeah.
Doesn't sound like it needs fixing to me based on all
No,
the.
I agree, Claire. So are we agreed that we don't take that one forward?
Yep.
Okay, all agreed on that? Yeah. Fine, thank you. And the last one was display materials. Well, I think in my time on the council, I can only remember this happening once.
And he's no longer on council.
Oh no, he is, yeah.
Oh, is he? I was thinking
It wasn't that long ago.
Perhaps it was two then. No.
Oh yeah, I was thinking Elwyn.
I wasn't. I've only been here 2.5 years, and it's happened once since I've been here.
What are our thoughts?
I would support that, Chair.
So would I.
Yeah, we're all in agreement with that?
Yes, agreed.
Yep. Okay. So we'll take that one forward as well.
Sorry, just being a bit facetious, but does that another reason for not having nameplates because it's a display material?
Well, yeah, could well be. Yeah. Okay, Debbie, you okay with that? The ones that we take forward?
Thank you, Chair, and I'll report back to the Standards Committee as well with the suggestions and recommendations from this committee. Thank you.
That's great. Thanks very much for that. I think that takes us on to the final item on the agenda, which is the heaviest, amendments to the Constitution. And I know that Debbie and the team have been working very hard on this. So again, over to you, Debbie.
Thank you. Sorry, yes, it's me again. This report, Chair, is around some minor amendments and proposals. So minor amendments, as members may or may not know, that they can be undertaken by the monitoring officer, but I still report them obviously to you. So those minor amendments, we had just a slight error in the number in section 5, so I've included that in part 2 of my report. Section 13 again in section 2 is another amendment, which is a change I can make as monitoring officer in terms of any legislative changes, because obviously they're mandated. I have to include those anyway, but I report to you in the same way. So we have an amendment to section 13 due to a change that's came into effect 3 days ago under the Town and Country Planning Order 2026. So I just need to incorporate an additional element from that legislation into Schedule 1 of Section 13. So I'm just reporting that to you here today. Then amendments that I'm proposing for your consideration is under Section 3 of that report. Councillor Peat will be aware of this element. So Section 22 of the Constitution is the whistleblowing code. And policy. We've had some significant discussions in Governance and Audit Committee, and a working group that Councillor Peat was heavily involved in. And as an outcome of that, it was proposed that we amend Section 22 of the Constitution to include a link, because obviously the policy needs amending. Sorry, I'll deal with the second part of my proposed amendments, and that we replace Section 22 with a link to the policy, because obviously we need to review our policies quite regularly, but therein lies the problem, because if we make changes more regularly with the legislation, it means I have to keep changing the Constitution rather than the policy each time. So this proposal is, and I'm sorry if it looks really complicated, but Section 22 has all been removed. So I'm showing you what my proposals are. So we removed the entire part of the policy. We put that into a link in Section 22 with an executive summary outlining the purpose of the whistleblowing policy. And I've also retained the elements that allow Governance and Audit Standards Committee to then review the whistleblowing policy, because it's obviously important that any reviews go to them for consideration under the policy. So I've retained that and put an executive summary in. So that's my proposal in terms of section 22. There's also another proposal, which is the legislation changed recently, the Employment Rights Act. It introduced a new protected characteristic, a protected disclosure of sexual harassment. That's changed by virtue of the law, and therefore we need to amend our policy to incorporate that element. So there's two proposals. I'm sorry if I've conflated the two, but there's two proposals that I'm suggesting today for the committee. One is the proposal on the change to the policy. And if you're happy to change 22 to remove the policy, replace it with an executive summary and a link and the provisions for future reviews by governance and audit standards, trade unions, etc. I hope that's clear. If not, please do say, and I can explain. Thank you, Chair.
No, thank you, Debbie. That cleared up a lot for me. I was very confused when I saw this document, I must admit, but that does clear things up. Councillor Peat, probably best to ask you if you wanted to make some comments on this because you've been heavily involved.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, and thank you, Debbie, not only for this today, but for all the work that you've done with us on the working group through audit and governance to get here. So, I think the only bits I would just add, Chair, is totally agree with what Debbie said there. The idea was so as we didn't have a policy in the Constitution and a policy, and therefore having to always keep both up to date. So it makes perfect sense to take the policy out of the Constitution and just have an executive summary now, which is what Debbie's done there. And I think the only 2 points I would just ask around clarification, excuse me, I'll just whiz back, is again in the Constitution, we call it in the heading a whistleblowing code. And I wonder again whether we need some sort of consistency. So we're calling it a code here, but we've actually got a policy. And then in the new executive summary, I do just wonder, Debbie, whether we need all the bits under who we consulted and the review, because in theory that should all be in the policy for me. So I wonder if the executive summary should just be 22.1 to 22.4. Thank you, Chair.
Debbie, just come back on that.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Peat. Yes, I originally, Councillor Peat, I did just put the executive summary 21.1 to 22.4 because the who we consulted and the review of the policy, you normally have standard boxes at the front of all our policies, so we keep them all consistent. That says the dates of review and who, for example. What I didn't want to do was to take away, because I know in governance and audit and certainly standards, we're really clear that we want you all to be part of that review process. So by adding it here, it would have been removed completely. Whereas I think for the purpose of members and officers knowing that actually that's the review process and it needs to come to those people, we highlight that under the executive summary, just so it's really clear who's consulted in terms of that review. I hope that makes sense, committee, sorry.
Yeah, if I may, Chair. Yeah, no, thanks, Debbie. That makes sense. Just then the other one. What about the heading? Code policy? Is there a consistency angle there?
Sorry. Yes, I mean what I wanted to do by retaining the heading of section 22, if that's what you mean, was that if anybody has a whistleblower and if they were to do a search, it would automatically take them to section 22. But then below it, that link, that will be an actual link to the whistleblowing policy below it. So what we're saying is that's the code, that's the summary, that's who we consult, but there's the policy attached on the link. So I think that will suffice, but I'm happy to take any recommendations if you want me to amend that in any way.
Councillor Peat, you're on mute. Did you want to?
Oh, sorry, Chair. I'm happy to be guided by Debbie on that, Chair.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anybody else got any comments on this? If not, we've got two recommendations before us. If you're happy, I can take the two recommendations together, I think. Recommendation 1 to note the minor amendments in section 2 of the reports made to the Constitution by the Head of Legal Services and Monitoring Officer, and recommendation 2 to consider each of the proposed amendments to the Constitution as set out in section 3 of this report, and to make such recommendations to Council as the committee considers appropriate. And I don't think we were making any, so can somebody propose that we accept those recommendations? Councillor Peat has proposed and Councillor Clare seconded. Are we all in favour?
Yep.
Well, that seems pretty unanimous. No abstentions or voting against? Nope. So I think that's clear. Thanks for that. We've been very generous and light with you on your first meeting, Debbie. So thank you very much for that report.
Thank you, Chair.
I think if we go back to the agenda, then that's the final item on the agenda. So I thank you all for attending today, and with that, I'll close this meeting at 10:45.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you,
Thank you very
Chair.
much.
Chair. Yeah.
Thank you,
Bye
Chair.
all. Bye bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye now.